I think it will hold certainly in the first days and weeks, and hopefully after that, because everybody, literally everybody now, in Israel and Lebanon, in the U.S., everywhere is really needs this ceasefire. Now, whether this is just a pause and the underlying tensions that have caused this fighting will resume, and the fighting will resume, remains to be seen. This has been the pattern over the last 30 years or so. We have to really look to the international monitors who are going to play a new role here, more than the UN forces. The US and France are mentioned, others might join. The international monitors could really do a big service to everybody in the region and the world by being decisive in making sure that both sides apply the terms of the agreement, and that they, as big powers, unlike in the past, that they treat both sides equally. The Palestinians, the Lebanese, the Israelis must all be treated with equal rights. And if this happens, then better days may be ahead.
So, as you said, the ceasefire means a cessation of hostilities, as Mr. Netanyahu has emphasised. It's not an end to the war between the two sides, as you've said. Will there be negotiation between the two sides then, Rami, during the ceasefire, to try to work out resolutions to all the issues that have pushed them apart?
Probably, but if that does happen, there'll be indirect negotiations. I mean, the Lebanese and the Israelis have met at the border point in Nakura and along the coast in Lebanon and Israel. They have met regularly, officers from both sides. Whether they move to meet again to talk about the underlying political issues remains to be seen. That's not necessarily in the resolution, but it is the desire of everybody who's dealing with this issue, so that we don't have another war a few years down the road and massive destruction. The Israelis are especially more concerned than ever now, because the Hezbollah has rockets that can reach Tel Aviv, as happened in the last few days. And this is something that worries them, and it's unprecedented.
You touched on how the ceasefire will be monitored, Rami, because the US and France and some other countries will be involved in a supervisory mechanism. But Lebanese government troops will be policing the south of the country, checking that Hezbollah fighters have withdrawn from that region. Would they confront Hezbollah militants if needed? Because that would pit countrymen against countrymen.
Probably not militarily confronting them. They would confront them politically. In many cases, the Lebanese troops know the Hezbollah fighters personally if they're from the south. But militarily, the Lebanese army is unable to stand up to Hezbollah or Israel, and that's by design of the international community. The imperial system that created Lebanon and Israel and other countries created the Lebanese army so that it's weak, so that it does not threaten Israel from the north, as other armies, Syrian and Egyptian, did, and as Palestinian forces and Hezbollah do now. And Hezbollah came into being because the Lebanese army was deliberately weak and allowed Israel to keep attacking Beirut and bombing the south, and even attacking the airport in Beirut as well. So this is something that we shouldn't expect the Lebanese army to confront Hezbollah, but we should expect the Lebanese army and government, international peacekeepers from the UN, and the international monitors together to take more decisive action on both sides, to make sure the Israelis stop their overflights and their drones and their other malicious things that they do. So if there is equal application of the terms of the ceasefire on both sides, this would be a really significant step forward towards thinking about how one day we could address the deeper underlying issues.
Strikes by Hezbollah on Israel began, of course, after the attacks by Hamas on October the 7th. Hezbollah took the action in support of and in solidarity with Hamas. So by accepting this ceasefire deal, is Hezbollah effectively decoupling itself from Hamas and what's happening in Gaza?
I wouldn't say decoupling. I think it is changing the manner in which it tries to support Hamas, because it obviously took a big hit when the Israelis attacked Hezbollah forces and killed many of its leaders. But Hezbollah is still a dynamic, active, capable force, as we're seeing now. Otherwise, the Israelis wouldn't go accept a ceasefire. The fact of Israel accepting the ceasefire is probably the most politically significant aspect of this conflict right now, because Israel has the total support of the U.S., has massive military capabilities and sophisticated ones, as we saw with their electronic warfare and intelligence penetration. So they could have just kept on fighting, but they couldn't keep fighting because Hezbollah in the south, on the ground, and through its missiles and drones, was attacking back and hurting Israel in different ways. So the relationship of Hezbollah to Hamas, I think, is going to change, that there will be continued support, but it probably won't be in the same way that has happened in the last 13, 14 months, which is to keep the Israelis busy in the north, divert some of the Israeli troops to the north, give the civilian population a hard time and let them suffer some of the pains that the Lebanese and Palestinians have suffered. That's not going to happen again, I don't think, but they'll probably be involved with Hamas. In other words, and significantly so, I think, will the other members of the axis of resistance who were all searching for how to keep confronting Israel to the point where Israel will sit down and negotiate a permanent, reasonable truce and a peace agreement with the Palestinians. That's the ultimate goal, and that was Hamas's goal for years and years. Hamas 10 times sent proposals to the Israeli government, 10 times in the last 20 years or so, to negotiate a permanent truce and the fighting between them and coexist after negotiations for an Israeli withdrawal from the 67 occupied lands and the creation of a Palestinian state, which are UN resolution demands of the whole world. So that's the goal is not to keep fighting or to destroy Israel. The goal is to force Israel into a negotiation that allows all the parties in the region, including the Israelis and the Palestinians, to live a decent life with equal rights. And equal rights is the critical criterion for moving in that direction.
Just finally, Rami, the ceasefire is due to last initially for 2 months. That takes us up to the change of president in the US. Is there a sense that this deal could change once Donald Trump is sworn in, if the ceasefire is still in place by the end of January, of course, given Mr. Trump's previous staunch support of Israel?
It's possible, but really, Trump is such a wild card. Such a force that is unknown. You don't know what he's going to do. Even if you look at his cabinet, some of them are right-wing extremists, and some of them are more middle of the road, and some of them are technocrats. There's all kinds of different people. So he's not a one-dimensional person, and he likes drama. But most of all, he likes deals. He likes making deals. And I think he is going to look at how he might play a role in a permanent resolution of this conflict in a way that would make him be one of the great men of modern history who brought peace to the Middle East. Real peace, not the fake peace that we had in the other peace agreements that have happened over the years, or the Abraham Accords that his son-in-law created and other things like that. So I think we can't possibly anticipate what Judge is going to do. It's like the financial advertisements say, that past performance is not a guarantee of future conduct. We don't know, but my guess is he will study the situation, look at what's best for him personally and for the United States, and then move on that. And this is a chance for people to engage with the United States in a really serious way with new, fresh ideas that will succeed, again, if they adhere to the criterion that the Palestinians and the Lebanese and Hezbollah and Hamas and Israel and Iran and all of these people must be treated according to the same criteria of rights. They can't be one dominant over the other. That's the old imperial way, and that's what we've had for a century, and you see the consequence.